Well, here we are at the Sydney Children's Hospital Foundation, and I'm very, very excited to be here with Elisabeth Crundall, who's the Chief Executive and has been their leading light for the last 14 years. She's about to leave the organisation to go on to greater things, but she's agreed to talk to me today about her approach to fundraising and tapping up the business sector.
I think when you start is defining very simply what your product is, and I think our success here has been defining that our product is sick children and their families, and always that holistic care, and not a hospital which is bricks and mortar and perceived to be government, because we walk this fine line between, well, isn't this government responsibility to run our hospitals, and why are you asking us? So having done that, we then looked at our product and decided to make it inspirational, and led the way in Australia in doing that, which is all, you can see them here, inspiring stories, engaging photographs. No matter how sick a child is, those eyes that engage you, and they don't look pathetic, they look brave and strong and resilient, and using that in everything that you do. We had a big struggle for years to bring the hospital online, to actually doing a bit of planning, to know what they needed in the short term and what they needed in the long term, and to put together a sponsorship package in the name of Sydney Children's Hospital, which included everything from research programs, which we didn't have any funded by the community when I arrived, clinical initiatives, those new initiatives where you get a chance to pilot things and see how they operate, and very effective in leveraging that to government for longer term funding, positions, training positions in fellowships to ensure that we have got well-trained paediatricians in all disciplines for the next generation. The fact is these guys don't make very much money by comparison to private practice, so there's got to be incentives and training there. And where government has a shortfall in funding, actually staff specialists so that we can provide every service. So we've got this basket of goodies that the hospital needs, and once we had that, it was then using whatever means we could to approach corporates, and we targeted a couple initially, a very large retail outlet and a big firm of lawyers, so we went professional services and retail.
Why? That was for a specific reason?
For a specific reason, to look at the two different ways that you could work, and really they're very different, and saying, right, you as a bunch of lawyers who are perceived to be high income earners, stuffy big end of town, what they could actually do. So Alan's Arthur Robinson 10 years ago started a training fellowship in neurology. It is the only one in Australia or New Zealand, in fact in the Southern Hemisphere. We've built on that for 10 years. We've worked with their charity committee, and they now set a benchmark for corporate philanthropy and make a huge difference to Sydney Children's Hospital. On the other side, conversely, with Big W, we looked at issues of staff morale that they had, and how this working and interacting with management, they could achieve great results and feel part of what difference they're making at Sydney Children's Hospital. And we had a recipe that meant that the suppliers got involved, that obviously supported and matched by workplace giving with the staff, by senior management, and they engaged the customers, and they raised between $800,000 and $1 million a year for us in New South Wales alone. And we went to them with a whole program, and it was Big W, Big Heart for cardiology services. Trialled that, then they took it national. We then expanded beyond that, and here they support outreach and telehealth, because we've got a commitment to taking health out into regional areas to save having to always bring children to Sydney. So wherever possible, it's done locally. And where there are Big W outlets, they're variety stores, they're the lower end of the market, but in country towns there is no choice. So that their brand now for all their philanthropy around Australia is Big W, Big Heart. And I suspect that that company is giving probably $4 million off the top of my head nationally to children's charities, specifically children's hospitals.
So that goes beyond a state border?
Because our charities in New South Wales are registered as state or federal, national.
Right.
Anything that's set up by an Act of Parliament is exempt from all fundraising rules and regulations and can do whatever they want. So we've got an extraordinarily uneven playing field. And what was starting to happen was companies wanted a quick fix to philanthropy. Just give me a national program, make it feel good. We'll give some money and we can tick that box,
right.
Which in fact it doesn't tick any of the, all the boxes involved in corporate philanthropy. But hospitals like us who actually need to raise the money to put the equipment, to have the staff and provide all the extra services and training, we're losing out to froth and bubble, like Starlight, froth and bubble, national charities. So we had to be smarter in approaching companies and saying, well, we can deliver not just a national campaign that doesn't really drill down into your local community, a campaign that will actually be national, be owned in every state. We can brand it. You have to. The other thing that up until very recently here, everybody wanted to know what they could get at the hospital. Can we have our sign outside? Can we have flashing lights?
Yeah.
How can we do this? We're very limited here. Yes, they can get signage, they get to all our events, and most people, certainly any parents, know whose generosity is supporting the various areas that their child is accessing. But the real benefit has to be the company's ability to leverage it back into the community with everything they do. And so we started working with our sponsors, saying, right, well, we need to sit down with your advertising agencies, your marketing agencies. In the case of Big W, what is your advertising spend a year? Approach them to do some pro bono work for you about promoting your philanthropy out into the community. And if you're somebody and you need to go to that shop and buy something, and you know through all the advertising that that company is supporting the children's hospitals around Australia, if you've got a choice of going to this one or this one, you know you're going to go to the one that's supporting your children's hospitals and really making a difference. So it's going to drive business, more jobs, more satisfied staff, more buy-in of clients or customers into the campaigns they run. It might be as simple as cooking or making things or whatever and selling them on stalls, which is not my preferred way, but the thrill that it gives those staff, and management support that, and in fact management will go and sit with those people. And so what it's done in the eyes of their chief executive is gone like this. It has melded a company together that was extraordinarily disparate.
Right.
Very long answer. One of the things we do is very good research to see where companies are aiming, what is their vision for their company, and how we can take them on that journey, and make sure that we put a lot of work into it before we actually make an approach.
Right.
Because when you go in, as literally as you must press the buttons that are going to work for that company. You can have the most reasoned, impassioned argument for why they should support you, but they may for 1 year, but it won't be sustainable if it's not working for them and meeting all those criteria, pressing all those buttons for those companies.